then my suggestion would be that instead of spending just time on maths, I'm not well versed with Python, I do not know Python, I do not know so many libraries that are used in Python, how do I even get started? The most overwhelming, intimidating, but the most interesting part of learning GenAI. And for building projects, really end-to-end applications, anyone can learn AI. My personal suggestion to you over here, I'm not going to tell you the importance of GenAI. If you have not been living under a rock, you would know that it is the trending thing right now. And anyone and everyone should be learning about GenAI. So this video finally covers GenAI Roadmap, where we are going to cover what to study, how to study, in what order to study, and so on. But there are many GenAI roadmaps out there. Then how is this video different? See, the thing is, I have not just learned GenAI, but I have also been teaching hundreds of students live in the last few months, especially software developers. So I understand where they usually get stuck, what are the problems that they usually face, which topics require more time, which topics can be covered easily and quickly. So I am going to cover a lot of tips and tricks, especially for software developers throughout the video. I'll keep telling the topics, but I'll also keep telling my approach and opinion towards learning certain topics. And I'll also give reasoning behind that approach. So if you find that good, you can always follow that. See, the thing is, the entire point of this channel is that if my sibling was learning something, how I would suggest them to learn, right? So this roadmap will also be like my personal guideline to you. If my sibling would be getting started with GenAI, this is exactly what I would tell them. Let's get started. First things first, the million-dollar question. Should we enroll for any GenAI courses or can it be learned for free? Now you might think, no, I'm going to sell my course to you. No, that is wrong. See, the thing is, it is same as, do you want to enroll for a personal trainer or do you want to learn your fitness regime and you want to create it yourself? Extremists are going to tell you, no, always go for personal training or always learn the exercises yourself. I find both of these approaches very wrong. You should not have any very extreme personal opinion like that. It is a very personal decision that you need to take for yourself. I am all in for learning everything yourself and for free. That is why I create YouTube content for free, right? You can learn everything for free. In fact, it will be unethical if I tell you you cannot learn HLD, LLD, DSA, C++, HHLD, GenAI for free. And still I have educourses courses. Why? Because with personal experience, in the past few years, I've taught thousands of students and I can tell you that learning actually becomes so much more fun. It becomes easier, it becomes quicker. You have a lot of motivation because you're part of community. And all of these things are true when you have a personal trainer, right? So it is literally the same thing. You make the decision for yourself. I'm not going to force you for anything, but you can follow this video regardless of your decision. So even if you decide to do it yourself for free, you want to learn everything yourself, or if you're deciding to enroll for a course, say educourses course, then you should know that what you're studying, why the approach is like that, right? So how I'm going to be telling you in this video, how I'll be covering the topics is that I'll cover my GenAI curriculum. And why am I doing that? Because this curriculum is proven. Hundreds of students have given great feedback over here, and most of them were actually beginners, okay? And there were also students who were actually pursuing MLAI master's degree, and even they said that this curriculum was awesome. So this is like a proven curriculum in my eyes, and everyone has given great feedback over here. So this is what I'm going to tell you. So even if you decide that you want to learn everything yourself, you should be following this curriculum and you should be like teaching yourself in this particular way. Or even if you enroll for a course, this will help you understand that why are you studying something. Let's finally get started. First thing that you need to understand about GenAI is that there are two major parts to it. The first part is about understanding how LLMs like ChatGPT, Deepseek, Gemini work internally. So this part completely focuses on the internals, and it itself is a journey, of course. And the second part is that now that I have LLMs available, how can I create applications using LLMs? So this is more kind of like software development only. It is just that you're doing development using LLMs, right? So as software developers, many people can decide that we want to focus only on this second part and not on the first part. And that is okay. That's a decision that you can make. If you ask me, my personal suggestion would be that you should definitely be curious about how LLMs are working as software engineers. It would be really awesome and really interesting to understand how LLMs work internally. So do spend some time on this, right? So how I had structured my course was that it was a 7 weeks course. 3 weeks was completely focused on the internals. 3 weeks was completely focused on the application side. And 1 week was like a buffer for anything extra to be covered, any more doubt solving or any extra projects, or if students need any extra help. It was actually not kind of needed. It was just to give extra confidence to the students. But 3 weeks was kind of okay enough. By the way, for those of you who are interested only in the application side, you can go to this timestamp. Just like all the other videos, everything is properly divided into timestamps. Coming to understanding the internals of LLMs, see, the foundation of deep learning, the foundation of GenAI is in neural networks, and that is where you need to get started. Now, some of you really get overwhelmed with neural networks. We've never heard of it before. But that is why I created this video where I explained my father neural networks. And slightly going off topic, a lot of you were asking if he's a software developer. No, he's not. He is just an awesome engineer. He is executive director of Peaches, but he's not a software developer. The point is that if he can understand, anyone can learn AI. And that is the point of this series. So that is why, guys, understanding neural networks is not very hard. The only thing is that once you get into details of neural networks, like the code and the mathematical details that I have not covered in that video, the thing is that some mathematical concepts come over there. Two very important things that you will need to know is backpropagation and gradient descent. Now here, yes, maths is involved, and yes, some people will suggest to you that no, you should spend 2 months, 3 months understanding maths. Now, if you're pursuing MLAI as a course, if you have like 2 years of time, then that kind of makes sense. My personal suggestion to you over here, if you are looking to, learn GenAI as quickly as possible, then my suggestion would be that instead of spending just time on maths and then getting started with neural networks and these topics, get started with it, because more or less engineering mathematics, school mathematics should be good enough to understand the basics at least. Maybe not in that much depth, maybe not like everything about it, but understanding the basics to go ahead and understanding the entire thing is good enough. My suggestion would be to focus on the breadth first and then slowly go into the deep as and when you find time. So what sometimes happen, I have seen so many students, they get stuck with how to study, what to study, and the basics, the prerequisites itself for so long that they never actually reach the topics that they wanted to study, right? So most people, when you want to understand the internal working of LLMs, you need to get to transformer architecture. Now for that, you need to understand neural networks, then RNN, CNN, LSTM and all that, and then you go to the transformer architecture. I'm going to tell you this entire thing. But the point is that as quickly as you move, that would be better for you and that will give you more confidence, right? So instead of spending too much time on just mathematics, my personal suggestion would be read about gradient descent, read about backpropagation and move ahead, but keep reading about it. Like, just don't forget the previous past topics that you have studied. Maybe do it parallelly a bit. Go into a bit detail so that, yeah, you understand the higher level detailing, and then whenever you get time, go into the depth. I hope you're getting my point. I'm not saying don't go into deep. Obviously, learn the topics in as much depth as possible. But first focus that, okay, you're covering everything and then go into details, because Gen AI is evolving so quickly. There are so many things that are coming every day, right? So if you spend too much time only on the prerequisites, you might actually take a lot of time in reaching the actual topics. I hope I am able to convey what I am saying. Again, just clarifying, I'm not saying don't learn in depth, but learning neural networks is not very hard. Gradient descent and backpropagation is not very hard. Just go through the basics. Engineering mathematics is more than good enough for that, and then move ahead. Now I'm about to ask you to get started with writing some code, and I know the most common question that is going to come is, I'm not well versed with Python, I do not know Python, I do not know so many libraries that are used in Python, how do I even get started? See, again, you can spend months going through the libraries, going to basics of Python and all of that, you can. My personal suggestion to make things very, very fast and quick would be, if you are well versed with any one coding language, if you have written any code in your life and you know how to write like basics of code and all of that, don't worry about it so much, okay? Don't think that I do not know this, how do I do that? See, in even my students, I do not ask them that, no, first go through Python, first go through NumPy, Pandas, and only then come to the class. No. Get started. Whatever I'm teaching, you will still be able to understand. So what I'm going to tell you to try writing code, you will still be able to do it. But you might require, so I would suggest that 2 libraries, NumPy and Pandas, I already have videos for them. So we watch this 1 hour long videos, no, it is good enough. So get started with what I'm telling you, and if you get stuck, just go watch these 1 hour videos and then come back and then continue with your learning journey, right? So I'm saying don't get stuck with this prerequisites, because there's so much and you will never know enough that, okay, now I know enough of Python and now I can get started with these things. So that will never happen. So if you are used to writing some code, just get started with what I'm going to tell you now and don't worry about it too much. So after knowing the basics of neural networks, I want you to get used to writing some models. So just get used to the entire life cycle that is there, training your model, taking the first data set, loading the data set, training the model, testing it, evaluating it. See, your model might not perform well, and that is completely fine. That you will learn slowly that what parameters to take, what hyperparameters to take. That is completely fine. What I want you to do is get used to writing the code, and I've seen this in students. Once you do that, you start getting more and more comfortable and confident. So the first data set that usually everyone gets started with is the MNIST handwritten data set, and that is available in TensorFlow itself. Again, don't bother that I do not know TensorFlow what. You will get so many free codes available. I'll also link all the notebook links over here. So the code is available for free, right? Plus I'm covering it slowly on the channel itself. So you can go through all the code yourself. So once you go through it, okay, this is what is happening over here, this is what is happening over here. Just ask ChatGPT to explain me these things and just get used to writing some models. Okay, so write 4-5 models. There are so many data sets that are available. Get started with the MNIST handwritten data set. Then you can write your own auto encoder. You can probably do house price prediction. You can take some more data sets. So there are a lot of data sets that are present in TensorFlow. They are present in scikit-learn. So you can pick different data sets and just get used to writing your models. They might not perform well, and that is okay. Just get used to writing some basic code for confidence. Once you're comfortable with writing some basic code, creating your models and all of that, it is time that you start reading or studying about the different architectures of neural networks. So the neural network that you would have been creating so far would be the simple feed-forward neural network. There are two more types that you should definitely know about, CNN and RNN. So let me give you some context about it. See, CNN stands for convolution neural network. So I have this video where I explain convolution to my father. So this basically deals with the spatial hierarchies, the spatial data. So whenever you're talking about images, you think about CNN, convolution, okay? Convolutional neural network. And RNNs are recurrent neural networks. So that is for sequential data, recurrent if you can understand from the term. So recurrent is meaning you are dealing with sequential data. So anything like your text, speech, all of this is your sequential data, right? Word after word. So whenever you're dealing with text-based data, you're going to get started with RNNs. And when you're talking about images and all, you're going to talk about CNNs. Now that you have understood the basics, you could actually go into detail of two things over here. One is the detailing after the CNN, basically for image-based data, and the other is detailing after RNN, basically for sequence-based data, for the text-based data. Now you could skip the image data part, but I wouldn't personally suggest it. I won't. We also spent like one entire week completely on image-based data because it is actually very interesting to understand how image classification works, how generation of new images work, how image blurring works and all of this. So it's really interesting to know how these things are working, right? Because it is a huge part of GenAI, and I wouldn't personally recommend you to skip it. But yeah, it can itself be an endless journey. So I want to tell you what we did. So what we did was we understood convolution in a lot of detail. We wrote a lot of code for it. CNN also, our understanding was like to the point. We understood, okay, how this works. So we have an understanding of how we deal with image data, right? So image classification, creation of image and all this, we understand to some level. Then there are three things when it comes to image-based data. One is GANs, that is generative adversarial networks. The other is VAEs, variational autoencoders, and the third is diffusion models. So see, we understood the higher level thing of all three, and we wrote code for GANs and VAEs. But we were like, okay, we'll come back to diffusion models. So we understood it at a higher level, but it involves a lot of maths and a lot of detailing. The thing is that diffusion models and VAs itself, there are so many white papers that are still being written. There are so many variations of those that are available that if you go into depth, like it itself is endless. There's a lot of research that is going in GANs, VAs and diffusion models. So I wouldn't suggest that just keep going on and on, but you should definitely know about these topics. So understand convolution really, really well. Spend time on CNN and write code for GANs. Okay, VAs and diffusion models are slightly harder topics. So if you understand on a higher level, it is okay if you want to come back to the code and do that later because there's still a lot to be done, right? So, but if you want to spend more time on it, you can. This is again a personal choice. I'm telling you what we did. We were like, okay, then we will just get stuck over here. So we have understood everything on a high level. Let's just move on. And then we came back to diffusion models in the last week. So that is what we did. And that is what I would also suggest you to do. Quick recap. Get started with neural networks, understand the basics, get used to writing the code, the models and all of that. Understand the different types of architecture that are there. Then focus on image-based data and focus on CNN, understanding how CNN is different than ANN in general, and then focus on understanding GANs, VAs, diffusion models. No need to go into a lot of depth for VAs and diffusion models because that can be very intimidating. I would suggest to first finish the topics and then come back to this. If you want, you can spend time on that as well. Moving on to the most overwhelming, intimidating, But the most interesting part of learning GenAI, that is understanding transformer architecture. And this was the third week of our course, and trust me, it was the most important and interesting one. And let me tell you first how to go to transformer architecture and why to go to it. See, I told you that when it comes to sequential data, now again, sequential data meaning any data that is coming like in sequence, right? So word after word. So it can be text, it can be speech, it can be time series data, anything. Okay, so whenever we are talking about sequential data, we got started with RNN, right? Now the problem with RNN was that when we have some text, we actually don't understand the meaning of, like, you know, text that was there say 3 sentences ago or 4 sentences ago. Basically we lose the context. So just explaining to you in very simple terms. So that was the problem with RNN. So you understand RNN and then the problems with RNN, and then you get to understanding LSTM, long short-term memory, where we could have bigger context, so bigger meaning of the sentences or huge sentences, okay? But still that was not good enough. Then came transformer architecture in 2017 that changed everything. And that is based on what ChatGPT and BERT and all of these LLMs work. So what do you need to understand? You first need to understand RNNs, then you need to understand the problems of RNNs and LSTMs, then problems of LSTM, and then you need to spend a lot of time on transformer architecture. Transformer architecture is not easy. I will give that to you. Okay, it is not easy, and it is definitely very, very interesting. You should spend some time on it. You should go through the white paper. You should understand it in a lot of detail. I spent a lot of time on it. Trust me, it is very interesting. What we did was, after we understood the transformer architecture in detail, after we went through the white paper, we tried writing the code for it. So we are basically writing the code for ChatGPT or BERT or all of these LLMs, right? So we wrote the entire code for transformer architecture so that it is completely clear one by one that, okay, why this is happening, then why this, what does the entire architecture signify, why are things working in a certain way, right? So the entire thing will be completely clear once you write the code yourself, and it will give you a lot of confidence. So we did that, and I would also suggest you to do it for free on YouTube. I am trying to create all of these videos, right? But it takes time because you have to first understand the transformer architecture, and then like for that also the basics should be clear. So this is happening slowly for the YouTube channel, but all of these videos will definitely come. I hope soon I am able to create a video where I'll definitely write the code for the entire transformer architecture, but it is very interesting, and this will give you a lot of confidence. You should definitely do it. Once this much is done, you should give yourself a good pat on the back because you will be feeling really confident. But still, when you are understanding LLMs, there is one problem with LLM, right? Because LLMs are trained with data up to a date. So what about the new data? So we need to fine tune our LLMs. So that is why fine tuning is very, very important, and you need to understand LoRa and QLoRa for that. Understanding LoRa, QLoRa is the important part because writing the code is actually very easy. There are libraries present which make it very simple for us, and the code is really easy to write. So just spend some time understanding the white papers for LoRa, QLoRa, and then move on to writing some code. Just get used to writing some basic code, and now we are ready to move on to the application side. Coming to the application side, the first thing that you should obviously learn is to build LLM based applications, and for that you can learn any framework. The most common one is the LangChain LangGraph ecosystem, and I would also suggest you to learn that is the most famous one currently. You could also go through Google ADK, Agent Development Kit, so you can say alternative of LangChain LangGraph. I already have videos on LangChain LangGraph, so you can go through these. These are pretty detailed, pretty good, so this is actually good enough. Try building your own Q&A application. We have already done that in the videos. Try adding memory to it. You should understand the need for tools, the problem with tools, and then you should understand MCP. So I have a separate video on MCP. So how you should understand is this. First, get used to the framework, like the basics of it, go through the documentation, build a basic application, then understand and add memory to it, then understand the need for tools and add some tools, then understand the problem with tools, and then add MCP server. So this is how you should be learning. After this comes a very important topic of RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. I already have 2 videos on this. One is the simple one where I am explaining my father the RAG and the importance of it. The other one is where I am actually writing the code for RAG. It is again very, very important topic. It solves the problem that if your data is present in your database and it is not present with the LLM, then how are you going to use LLM to answer the questions that is present in your database, right? So just giving you a high level idea. make sure you are used to writing the code over here, and this is where you'll also get used to vector databases. Pick any one vector database for the starting. I would suggest ChromaDB is pretty easy to get started with, so you can get started with that. Build one or your own RAG pipeline, because on the application side this is a very common use case that you're going to face. And for building projects, you should definitely learn Streamlit. It helps you create the front end or the UI part very easily for your LLM based apps. So it's actually pretty awesome. I created so many applications in the course, and the students felt so confident because they were building literally end-to-end applications. So it gives you a lot of confidence. The chat application that you were able to build using LangChain LangGraph, just add your UI to it and you will literally get a feel of proper ChatGPT, and you can build your own ChatGPT end-to-end now. You can also add tools to it, so you'll also be able to add things like web search or say push my code to GitHub, and the thing will be like your project will be end-to-end. There will be UI as well, right? So that will give you more confidence. So spend some time on Streamlit. We're almost done. There are a few more things that we also covered, and I would suggest you to also go through. HuggingFace is very, very important. There are a lot of pre-trained models, data sets that you could use. There are applications that are available. You can also fine-tune your own models and put over there. You should definitely check out Ollama to run models in your own local system. You should check out Unsloth for fine-tuning. So these are the things that we covered. You could also check out Kaggle. We didn't cover it in a lot of detail. So the thing is that as you pick more and more projects, as you go into GenAI more and more, you're going to start using these communities and these libraries more and more. Don't worry about it too much. Just pick projects and be excited about it. Also, as a bonus, if you have understood the transformer architecture really well and you are confident about how ChatGPT works internally, you would definitely be interested to know how Deepseek works. And that is what we covered in the last week of our course, the buffer time that we had. At that time, Deepseek had just come and it was such a huge hit and everyone wanted to know about it. So you can go through the Deepseek white paper, and there are 3 main topics that I would like to go through to understand why Deepseek was huge. So the 3 topics are, first one you might have heard of, reinforcement learning. The second one is chain of thoughts, which is why it was such a huge reasoning model, right? It used to give you chain of thoughts and reasoning behind every thought process. And the third thing is mixture of experts. So you should definitely go through these 3 topics and you will understand why Deepseek is so awesome. This brings us to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed. If yes, please consider subscribing and sharing it with your friends. It would mean so much to me. Last but not the least, please check out the Educourses courses. I would love to be part of your further learning journey as well. If not, that is also completely okay. We are creating so much of free content on YouTube, so at least you can subscribe, right? We have covered so much of the GenAI already, and I want to cover a lot more videos. I promise so many more videos coming up. This has been such an incredible journey. Learning GenAI has been so much fun, and I hope you're also enjoying it. See you next time, guys. Keep learning, keep enjoying.